Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Clean Tech Executive Leadership Workshop, Leading with Confidence. We are very excited to be with you today, and we are so lucky to have Pam Sammarco with us here today to lead this workshop. My name is Joey Scholl, Events Director for WCS. A little Zoom etiquette before we start. You are probably pretty familiar with it after just about 3 years of virtual meetings, but just a few reminders. Please write your name in the participants section. Turn on your video if you feel comfortable doing so. We love to see your faces. And WCS volunteers, please add an asterisk next to your name. We encourage you to put your LinkedIn profile and a quick introduction in the chat to connect with other attendees. The more you get involved and active during this event and follow up after the event, the more you benefit. So who are we? WCS is a nonprofit originally founded in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are now in 13 countries and have a membership base of more than 500 professional women and men. The goal of the organization is to support women in their careers in the clean tech industry. And WCS is celebrating its 12 years, which is pretty impressive considering we are a nonprofit primarily run by our volunteers. And what we do at WCS, we have monthly events such as panels, happy hours, and social events. We switched to virtual events during the pandemic, but we're working on moving back to in-person, so stay tuned. We also have a mentorship program, which wrapped up last month, and a new WCS e-circle program designed for entrepreneurs. The second cohort begins at the end of June. And our annual flagship event, WCS Talks, a TED Talks style event hosted in the fall. Speaking of events, here are upcoming events. May 18th, we'll be hosting a table at the My USGBC conference in LA. And May 18th, we have our spring social in Alameda, LA, Phoenix, and Denver. June 9th is our annual pitch competition. I'm so excited for this one. June 15th, in case you happen to be in Paris, Copenhagen, or Brussels, we'll be hosting a summer social in these cities. And June 24th, a WCS cleanup day supporting female fighters in Kyiv. And June 30th, our e-circle cohort 2 will kick off. And our mentorship program or membership. In case you are not yet a WCS member, I encourage you to sign up. Just scan the QR code to do so. Feel free to reach out to me or any of the other WCS members and volunteers on the call if you have any questions about the membership. Today's presenter is one of our board members, the Career Development Co-Chair, Pam Sammarco. Pam is the CEO and founder of Green Training Associates, a full-service talent development firm. Green Training Associates works to develop people's capabilities to solve the world's challenges and accelerate sustainable business growth by providing training, leadership development, coaching, career paths, and mentoring services. They serve clean tech and renewable energy, green buildings, environmental science, technology, food, future, tech and waste, water, sustainability, and life sciences industries. Pam, we are so fortunate to have you today. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm grateful to have all of you attend. We have a fantastic program for you, so allow me to share my screen and get started. So good day, welcome. Thank you all for joining. I'm delighted really to be here with WCS. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to facilitate this workshop. So your commitment, dedication, and participation in this workshop shows that you're thought leaders for your careers and you desire to solve the world's challenges. We've got a great program, so who's ready to get started? All right. So let me first offer a virtual heart handshake. Because we can't be in person, this is our way of building social connection with you. So you're going to see these slides pop up throughout the program. Let's talk. So I want this to be a conversation amongst friends. And one way to build confidence is to have a name and speak out loud an affirmation about your superpower. So at this point, when this Let's Talk purple slide shows up, I'm going to invite you to offer a response to a question. So here, pick a power name for yourself, type it in the chat, tell us why you chose that name. So think about this. What's your superpower? What's the biggest strength? What's most unique about you that brings forward? And we have Shivani, who's our chat monitor. So I want to thank our volunteer team today. Shivani is going to monitor the chat. If you feel inclined to open your microphone, it's okay to do that as well. So I'll invite your comments and then we'll move forward. So this is an interactive moment. What's the first thought that comes to your mind? Shivani, how are we doing with the chat?
We're okay. Julie commented saying she's not good at marketing, but I'd be broker Julie because I connect people. I like that.
Nice, fantastic. I consider myself a people connector too. Go ahead.
I was saying we can also speak up in these discussions, like just raise your hand, or just if it's quiet, we can just chime in, try to keep an active discussion. This is a challenging one though, Pam, because I have like so many names like trying to think of, and I'm like, I'm curious what yours is though.
I'd say connector is probably one of them. I think that's probably representative of also a helpful connector, I would say would be my superpower. Because I go out of my way. It's like my goal to be helpful in life to people. I extend myself if someone needs help. So helpful connector would be me. How about you, Shivani? Which one did you pick?
I think I resonate with what you and Julie are saying. If I had, in the name of also WCS, I think, meeting people and connecting and also just showing up and being of service. I think I'm definitely of that like service oriented approach ever since I was a Girl Scout when I was little. So I think it's something I like to maintain and facilitate, I guess, to be able to keep those type of connections.
Yeah, I think that's it's part of like our nature, like how we're wired. And if I think about what I do, which is a facilitator, a coach, a trainer, all of those roles have to do with helping people and connecting people. So cool. So okay, so do we have any other chat messages, or should we move forward? We're welcoming some new people that jumped in. We are at a point where we're having a brief interactive conversation around Let's Talk. We just got the program started, so welcome. One way to build confidence is to name your superpower or an affirmative statement that you speak out loud. So picking a power name for yourself, type it in the chat and tell us why you chose that name. Shivani, if no other comments, we'll take them as we roll through. So we have a value-packed program today. Like to invite people to continue to comment as we flow. So we
have 3 last contributions, I guess. Erin said she's a Jane of all trades and always have my hands in many different work streams and pots. So I'm definitely a get her done person. I love that. Lael said friendly includer. I definitely think that's a thing and very necessary, Lael. And Leslie said powerful connector. I love bringing people together and being a value add member of the team. Love that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all. And it speaks volumes about the accomplished professionals that are WCS members. And we're pleased to have those thoughts. So our agenda today, we've got a value-packed agenda. We're in the introduction. We're going to roll into the business case for action to improve gender inclusivity, promotion, and sponsorship. We'll talk about the top 7 women in leadership challenges. We'll talk about creating your professional visibility, which includes developing your elevator pitch with an elevator pitch practice. I put 2 handouts in the chat and Joey will repost those as needed. But we've got 2 great activities because then we're going to talk about networking, because your network is your net worth. And we'll talk about aspirational career conversations. We'll have a practice. That's the second handout. So these are 2 skill building practices today for you. Then we'll have 6 factors of workplace success as the final module. And then we'll have questions and open discussion and close. We will run through 2 hours straight. So if you need to step away for a bio break, feel free to do that at your convenience. We don't have a formal break planned. So given this agenda, here's another Let's Talk side. What are you curious to learn about today? Tell me what brought you out.
Okay, I can start. So to me, it's the confidence part. Like I like to be in charge and make things move forward, but I hate being in the spotlight. And so all the confidence part, getting others to follow you, to me is difficult. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And confidence is an outcome of developing your leadership capabilities and your credibility and your capabilities. So all those things are what make you more confident. But we're going to hit on some things I think you're going to find really valuable, Julie. Thanks for sharing. What other comments?
I think I'm similar to Julie in a way. I'm really interested in learning the elevator speech. I'm confident in my work and my ability, but then actually tooting my own horn and talking about what I do is really uncomfortable for me. I was raised by, people who didn't do that. And so it's out of my comfort zone.
That's a great point, Lael. So I find many women challenged with being comfortable talking about themselves. We're going to work on that together today. Thank you. What other comments?
Well, I
I'll
put this
come
in the
back.
chat.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I put this in the chat, but so I'm working on reshaping the next step in my career at my current company, right? And I'm not really sure what that is because I have been kind of more of a generalist, my whole career. So I'm looking to kind of find a way to hone down. But I want to find ways to level up in any way I can. I also, I suffer from pretty severe imposter syndrome, which surprises a lot of people because I'm very much an extrovert and I'm never shy to speak up. But so again, just like always trying to find ways to enhance that executive presence and own myself a little more.
And Erin, we're going to be speaking about the career aspiration conversation plan, and that's what the template is as well, one of the handouts that will help you form that, because that's what you want to take into that. So it's the internal process and then how you operationalize it. And I get asked a lot about imposter syndrome in this presentation. I've trained hundreds of women on this topic, and that comes up often. So I have 2 slides that are going to help you. Wonderful. Any other comments, or should we move forward? All right, so I'm going to invite you to create your action plan today because it's going to be raining new ideas. So get your umbrellas and your notepad out to catch all the best practices and the light bulb moments that will be your practical actions for you to make intentional change and form new habits. So we're going to move through the process from left to right on our arrow, starting with learning, setting goals, intentional change, forming new actions and habits that lead you to success. So with that said, starting now, I want you to find ideas that motivate you to change, collect ideas for at least 3 actions to take with you today. So let me invite you. It's this inspirational statement. So on the left in the green, we're here today to inspire and empower you to innovate, lead, and uplift yourself and others toward a more equal and inclusive workplace for your current job experience and your lifelong career success. So it's time to step forward with capability and credibility, because women leaders should build your careers with aspirations to do what you love, be whomever you want to be, and be successful. So those are my words of wisdom. Using my love of benchmarking and researching trends, this next section is going to engage you with a strategic view of the business case for the action to improve your company's gender inclusivity, promotion, and sponsorship of women leaders. Let's jumpstart your thinking with ideas for yourself and for your organization's Women in Leadership program. So if you aren't taking this topic seriously, you will be when you read the statistics on the coming slides. The positive impact, particularly where gender and ethnically diverse companies have significant competitive advantages. This is why diversity and inclusivity is a top business priority today. 2 primary studies I'll call out for this section is McKinsey's research. They determined that gender diverse companies are 15% more likely to outperform their peers, and ethnically diverse companies are 35% more likely to do the same. So the business case is, if you don't have a diverse workforce, which comes from all walks of life, then you don't have the most talented workforce in terms of the big picture of recruiting and retaining gender and ethnically diverse workers, because the retention is one of the biggest issues, right? They can attract them, but can they keep them? So Catalyst research at the bottom learned that companies with more women on the board statistically outperform their peers over a longer period of time. So this is why there's value, because women are 51% of the workforce. Now, some of the challenges are coming, as we'll describe them in the next 2 or 3 slides. Female Fortune 500 CEO growth has been slow. So when you look at this red bar chart from 1998 to 2020, there were 2 women of 500 Fortune 500 CEOs. Now there's 37 women, which is only 7.4%. So women are still a minority in the top executive role of Fortune 500 companies. So the growth has been slow. And sadly, only 3 of the 37 CEO women are women of color. So this shows the very slow progression over 22 years of women leaders elevating to the C-suite. So much more work is need to be done to continue to pave the way for more women in CEO positions with equal compensation to men. Let's talk about compensation. We have frozen gender and racial pay gaps that are huge problems. When we look on the left, female CEOs get paid less, according to a 2019 Bloomberg study. So of the best paid executives in the S&P 500, only 8% of 2,500 are women. And women executives earn on average 5.3 million, which is 18% less than men. Across the economic spectrum, women have fewer opportunities than men. When we look at the right column, US gender pay gap, minimal change in 2 decades. So the Pew Research Center in 2022, women earned on average 82% of what men earned. That same data in 2002, women are paid 80%. So only a 2% increase in terms of equal pay for equal work between men and women. And unfortunately, again, racial factor comes in because African-American women are only paid 63% of white men are paid for the same job. So the sad news in the green bar at the bottom, US Congress and President Kennedy passed an equal pay mandate. Men and women received equal pay, the same pay for the same work. So 60 years later, we're still having a conversation about this, and we're far from complying with that legal standard. So, you know, I continue to be puzzled at this essential corporate compensation task. Why are women and men paid differently? Part of the answer is that men will negotiate harder for more money. And I also hold responsible compensation specialists inside companies and HR that should commit to salary audits to make sure that they compare pay across people for the same job. And while we don't address the trends of the business case directly in this presentation, it does give a sense of urgency and context for where women are and where women need to be. Now, there's, in terms of gender inclusivity, pay equity, and women in leadership skills, you know, we need to work harder at the leadership, women in leadership initiatives. We need to work harder as women, to be asking for transparency and pay. LinkedIn has a trend where now, and Indeed, which companies are being transparent about the pay range. New Jersey actually has a state law where an employer can't ask about your prior salary on the job application. They need to just offer the pay range and the market reference zone, what is benchmarked in the industry and what the company is offering, and they can't ask about prior salary history. So these things help in gender pay parity. Our executive leadership workshop, I'm planning one later this year that's going to be about talking about money at work for women and how to level the playing field for gender pay parity. So we're going to have another workshop that's going to be dedicated to this, because women tend to be more uncomfortable talking about money. And we want to make sure that you've got the right skills and the right information on this topic. So let's move forward and talk about the top 7 women in leadership challenges. Women tend to be held to higher standards generally. We fight gender stereotypes all the time. You walk a fine line between how feminine you can be, how expressive you can be, how compassionate with those soft skills and the collaboration that women are known for and that are strengths. And then it's seen as maybe too soft or too weak. So I call those power skills, by the way, because that's really what makes people effective. But playing the political game, the competition, men are raised with a competitive edge through sports and through other means. men are just wired from a very young age. And when you look at women's teen magazines, it's what's the latest lipstick shade, who's wearing Gucci, and all the trends that, you know, are superficial for women. We're not raised with that, you know, fire in the belly and the competitive edge and the drive that men typically have. There's a gender bias sometimes stereotypically in upbringing that doesn't really skill us to play that game. Women are also managing many roles, whether it's elder care or family care, and trying to juggle work at the same time. Women also, for number 5, tends to take less risks. So we want to work on intelligent risk taking as a skill. And we also want to step out. So when you look at a job description, a woman would look at it and say, there's 10 requirements. I meet 8 of the 10. I'm not qualified to apply. A man looks at that same job description of 10 requirements. He meets 5 of the 10. Oh, I'm qualified. I apply. So there's a thinking there that they don't hesitate because they've got confidence, even if they're not as qualified as a woman. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome and tall poppy syndrome shortly, because these are very important call outs. And when we become aware of them is when we can then work toward mitigating them. So I'll invite you to think about, how has your company prepared a gender inclusive, comprehensive talent system? So that's where the women need to get a company that's paying attention to these things. And I know women conversations that I've had, there's a challenge where a man, it's unconscious bias and microaggressions. They're not even aware that they're doing things that are driving this divisiveness and the lack of equal playing field for women. So let's look at imposter syndrome and tall poppy syndrome next as this section proceeds. So the imposter syndrome, what is it? Well, it's the condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally, despite being high performing external in objective external ways, just like Erin said. This condition often results in people feeling like a fraud or a phony because we're doubting our abilities. So self-sabotage is one reason why women don't have the confidence and credibility and capability, because we have negative self-talk going on in our minds. Another reason is if you don't value yourself, then you're not communicating that value to influencers and stakeholders. So those are some, you know, this is the lay of the land. Now, what to do about it? Here's some antidotes for you to consider. How about we look at the culture that may influence the self-doubt? So it's that sponsorship and support, mentorship, coach, the attention for a woman to get the same visibility as men. You know, those are factors, and we're going to see more in the tall poppy syndrome too, what those look like shortly. Well, we need to really address that in the company culture. We all start somewhere, because sometimes we've languaged ourselves. You know, if you could say, just like take a snapshot of what you've accomplished, whether it's looking at your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your career, we have a lot to be proud of, and we should say that to ourselves. So I say to myself at the end of the day, you've done a good job. And I have this moment where I pause and say, look at what I've done and look at how I've supported people. It's not an arrogant way. It's really just a reflection of, you know, saying I'm doing good. And so that's important to reframing negative to positive self-talk. You're chosen and in that room for a reason. So I invite you to think about the reason why you're in your role, why you were hired. We have so many highly accomplished women in WCS and in this room. You know, be kind to yourself and give grace, because sometimes we are hard on ourselves. I know I am. You know, a little mistake here, and it could have done better there. Constant feedback then crowds our minds about what we actually have accomplished. So I would encourage you to talk with yourself like you talk with your best friend in terms of positive self-talk. Imposter syndrome also has to do with perfectionism. And there's 5 kinds of imposter syndrome, but one is a perfectionism. So it's okay to say, I don't know, let me find out, and then follow up on that. You might just deal with it, cry and get over it and move forward. Because guess what? When you find your confidence, as people look to you to be a resilient leader, they're looking to you to be a resilient leader, not hiding in your office. So I'll invite you to think about how to apply these antidotes to your own the limitations we put on ourselves. So the tall poppy syndrome is an incredible new research study done just earlier this year, on 4,700 respondents in 103 countries. This occurs when people are attacked, resented, disliked, criticized, or cut down because of their achievements and or success at work. So this has to do with successful, ambitious women, because the more accomplished an individual is, the more likely she faces aggression, not only from those in a position of seniority, but also from her peers. And the impact to organizations is big. It affects all of our interactions with clients, colleagues, leaders. It affects talent retention, mental health of women, well-being, and workforce engagement and performance in terms of productivity. So this is a silent systemic syndrome, and the significant impact on women in the global workplace is worldwide, and the cost to organizations is big. So women's success is under attack in the workplace around the world. So there's a lot of detail here, but if you do an internet search, you can download a 24-page white paper along with this graphic. So just very high level, 87% of the women responded in 103 countries have said they experienced this tall poppy syndrome at work. Who's doing the cutting? Men. Why and how? Well, the top drivers are jealousy, envy. So I'm on the left of this graphic. Sexism, lack of confidence, insecurity. How are they doing it? Downplaying achievement, stealing credit, being undermined, dismissal of achievement, being left out of meetings. I hear women after women in conversations where this is going on, and it's a result of these factors. And the impact, stress, burnout, negative self-image, women want to leave their jobs. 60% believe they're going to be penalized. 67%, almost 2/3, want to leave their job, and 50% left their previous job because of this. And the impact on the bottom line is significant because it's creating a culture of distrust and it's disrupting productivity. And guess what? Companies don't want you to talk about it. Only 1 in 5 women actually were encouraged to take action. Shh. Don't speak up. Don't say this. No, it must be all in your mind. And that's not happening, right? So the ability to be articulate, be in control when you communicate your concerns, and be authentic in the conversations, because this is about transparency. It's about building trust, and it's about not accepting the behaviors that are then creating such workplace disruption for women. So on the positive note, let's turn the tables on this conversation. Your future is bright because we see all of these trends as an opportunity to give you the capabilities like today's workshop and the skills, access to training, development, coaching, promotion, equal compensation, and sponsorship. We want to be the game changers, and we want to be the thought leaders. So our call to action for women leaders: own your future, your success, your careers, your skills, your development, your confidence. Your voice needs to be heard, your visibility of your professional brand, your quick and engaged minds, your control, owning your body and your health decisions. There's all kinds of debates that are ridiculous out there about this issue, and your strong, resilient, courageous spirit. So be the change you want to see in the world. And some advice around how to do that is to be bold and to be wildly successful. So here's a simple way to remind you of some fundamentals for your career success. I invite you to think about this moving from left to right. We want to start with our internal self characteristics and frame it internally. We'll talk about self-motivated actions and then actions with others. So we're talking about internal self characteristics. I want you to think about making progress. First of all, being prepared, organize your strategy. And we're going to do that with your career aspiration plan today. Be courageous with intelligent risk-taking, be powerful yet humble, be assertive and decisive. So when we move to self-motivated actions, the way to operationalize this is to develop your leadership skills, communicate your goals and aspirations, listen, observe, and ask, demonstrate professionalism always. And then the actions with others are how you're going to then take this out to people you're working with. Ask for opportunities to prove yourself. Ask for a mentor and a sponsor. Drive results, because there should be no question about your ability to perform, and be visible and vocal. So we move from left to right on this chart. that helps you, this is by no means an exhaustive list, but it gives you a framework for consideration. So to make conscious choices, you want to have a strategy, a plan, and a guide for your dreams and aspirations. So I encourage you to develop a new mindset. My 3 favorite characteristics are mindfulness, being voraciously curious, and going out to discover things. So this is about being progressive, innovative, opening your mindset, know what you know what you don't know, and make a plan to find out, because you're becoming a thought leader and you're going to invite innovation and trends into your thinking that opens your mindset. And only then can you dream big and make conscious choices. So your roadmap for conscious choices for your career, your life, your education, you're always filled with conscious choices. Decisions we make draw on the resources available to you to make those decisions that reflect who you are and who you want to be. So it's a current state. Where am I? Where do I want to be? And how am I going to create a roadmap to get there? So let's talk. Here we open the microphone in the chat window. Who in your life do you admire? Which women leaders are role models for you and why? So these role models can be any woman, not just public personalities, celebrities, or influencers, right? So it could be your mom, your best friend, your prior leader, your current leader, your family members, any confidants that you have, teachers, mentors, people that have been impactful. Because what we want to do is take on those characteristics that we admire so much. And when we embody those, they say, we are a composition or a summation of the top 5 people we spend the most time with in our lives. So think about that as well. Let's open the microphones or chat. Shivani, who's ready to make a comment on this?
I don't see an electronic
so
hand raise function, so I'm going old school and actually raising my hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go for it, Leslie.
Feel free to point it out if I'm missing the electronic version.
Oh, yeah, we can share that with you, right? So when you
in reactions,
the reactions button at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I hadn't looked there.
No, it's okay. We should give that instruction because people use
Like
all
you said,
the platforms.
we've been doing this for years. I should have just figured that out. So
go ahead.
yeah, this is an easy one for me, and I love to talk about. I'm lucky enough to have a fellow woman on my leadership team here at TerraSmart, and her name's Joanna. She's very involved with WCS. So but yeah, she's a great person and a partner that I admire. She is so much more, she's our VP of marketing, but is so much more than what you would ever think of as a marketer. She heads up product management. She's a great communicator and she's great at messaging. So when I stepped into my VP of finance role, I very carefully, as we do our all hands calls with the company, I will go to her because she's so good. She's so good at the messaging stuff, versus my analytical strengths that like to play in spreadsheets all day, which may not, be the best at messaging to, the specific pocket or audience that we're trying to get to. So love and value that I've got a partner like that on our team.
Extraordinary. And we love Joanna. She's our, and fairly new board officer, but we love to work with her in the marketing function. So grateful that you shared that, Leslie, and so powerful when you have that authentic connection. I'm glad that you brought that up. Who would like to go next?
How about Leo? I think your hand is up.
Okay, yeah. Now I have to figure out how to put my, there we go. So the person I'm thinking about is my previous position. I was at a local government, and our city manager, which is the equivalent in corporate world to a CEO. She was my direct boss. Her name is Jennifer, and she was just amazing. She was the perfect mixture of everything. Like she was a bit self-effacing with her humor, very confident, didn't seem to have any agenda other than doing a good job and other than serving the city. She tended to remember people. And in when she first came on board, and I suddenly was having to present to the commission really often, which made me nervous. That was not something I had wanted to do. So I was nervous, right? Doing this on TV and presenting to the 5 scary people at our city and everything. And in one of the first really big presentations I gave, one of the commissioners asked something that I just didn't have a clue about. And so I said, I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. And my next meeting with her, that was the first thing she complimented me on. She was like, that was awesome. That's exactly what you should have done. I hate to hear people make stuff up. And it really stood out to me that she valued like honesty that much and integrity and everything else. So she's always been an inspiration.
Great story. And so powerful because that stayed with you, right? So when we get those moments, we're seen and we're supported. That commitment is extraordinary. And then you feel that recognition and that you carry that forward, and that in short, certainly it reinforces behavior that's good, that you want to do that again. So great coaching and a great story. We've got two other folks. Thanks, Lael. Who else would like to speak?
Nicole, then Julie.
Nicole, will you unmute?
About that. Rather than a single moment or supervisor, I had the privilege of growing up with an aunt who, as a single mother, created her own organization from the ground up. And by the time she sold her pharmaceutical testing company, she had an office on every continent. And I have always admired her grit. And I think that it really inspired me to continue in a lot of really hard times through my life. Just knowing that she continued, even after declaring bankruptcy in her 30s, she kept going until finally her success actually paid off. And that grit is incredibly inspiring to me to this day.
Yeah, what a great story, Nicole. So powerful when you look at what, sometimes it gives perspective on what we think is important in life. And when you hear that story, you're going, okay, the things that I worry about every day pale in comparison to that kind of internal strength and strong spirit and resiliency. Yeah, we're in awe. Thank you for sharing. Julie, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So yeah, I have a list of various women which I admire, and I try to think of them when I'm in a tough spot. I'm gonna take the example of one of my best friends today because the colleagues have we already had examples. So I'm at the kind of beginning of my career, and my friend is too. We're the same age, so she's still pretty young in the workplace, but she manages to have fun at her job every day. Whichever job she takes, whichever new roles she moves in, she really manages to enjoy all of her a task every day. And also it makes her really good at her job. And I think what I really like about her is that and admire is that she's good at helping people grow. She's good at narrowing down the strength of a person and her weaknesses, and then she's able to formulate this in a very positive way to help people really see where they can improve and improve and then move on to the next level. So I always use her advice when I'm in a tough spot at work.
Wow, it sounds like she's an extraordinary leader and also coach. And for her to be that, observant and how to translate that is what's really powerful into what those actions are, and to be able to deliver those messages of feedback and coaching. I admire leaders that do that. Thank you for sharing. All right, so great ideas. Let's internalize those and absorb those, because it sounds like it carries some people forward and gives you strength, and also creates a role model for you to want to emulate those the things that you most admire. So great stories, everyone. Let me run through a personal story at Douglas College, which is one of the 7 sisters, all women's colleges in the United States. And my career path was really driven by this experience, and it's why I am the woman leader I am today. So this was an important time in my life. I had an externship many years ago on winter break, just for 2 weeks. I was at Merck Pharmaceuticals training department, which is my field of study. 2 weeks, hands-on. That externship confirmed that I chose the right career path, and I pursued my academic path that supported my career path. So I chose my career first, and I backed into it with the academic path. And many years later, I'm still in the same profession, even more passionate and successful than I would have ever dreamed, with a 39-year career in talent development and training and coaching people. So it's not impossible to start that young but I will invite you. My Red Pine Society Guide sweater is on the left here. It's beautiful, from 1986. The sweater is symbolic of my leadership role at Douglas, where I began my deep commitment to empowering women. I've been extending a ladder up to develop, train, and coach women leaders since 1986. How many of you have extended a ladder up? Because we need the multiplier effect. So think about paying it forward, however you want to phrase it, extending a ladder up. This is our commitment to bring up the next generation of women, bring up women that have less than we have, committing to anyone in our life where we can be a guide, a mentor, a coach, and support people in, carving out a path. It may be an introduction, a referral, a connection, whatever we could do. I think it's important. So you find your path for that laddering up, if you will. So it never occurred to me, and this was how I raised by my mom and Douglas, it never occurred to me that I couldn't do whatever I set my mind to. So that resilience is a result of my mom, who is my muse, my inspirational model. She's the go-to sounding board when I'm having a meltdown, whatever it is, but she's one of the people in my life that I value. And Douglas College taught me that. Douglas women have a reputation in business that for being exceptional women of excellence. So, but it never occurs to me, even today, that if I want to do something, that I'm going to go do it and I figure it out and I engage people to help. So I want you to think about that, because we stop ourselves and we create a lens for ourselves that kind of take us out. And we talk ourselves out of what could be potential failure or risk. You assess that risk, you identify what needs to happen. You might connect in and get some guidance on whatever you're trying to accomplish. But those factors, we talk ourselves out of what's possible in life. And when we remove that lens, it opens doors for our future. So, here's the summary. This is the things that I've accomplished in life and in my career. I'm proud to be a business owner for 15 years with a stellar corporate career for 24 years prior. I have alphabet soup in my credentials. I joke about that, but it shows that I'm qualified, I'm dedicated, and I'm highly experienced in everything around developing people's capabilities to solve the world's challenges, build sustainable organizations. And, I'm so proud of everything I've done. My dedication to the career development function for WCS is just extraordinary. I'm passionate and committed to ensuring we have great skill building learning experience for us. So let me open the mics again. Let's talk. What was a significant life milestone or career accomplishment that was a defining moment for you, and why? So you heard my story. Who would like to share a career accomplishment that really was, bam, that was game changing for me?
I don't mind kicking this one off. In my early 20s, I guess, like 24, I basically had to start over in life and go back to college and figure out what I wanted to do. And I basically completely switched tracks and went into the psychology route, and ended up stumbling upon a professor who was a National Geographic explorer, and then kind of really went down this clean tech sustainability route, and traveled the world with him and did these started a company in Brooklyn, things like that. But I think if I had not listened to my intuition of being like, this is what really speaks to me and this is the direction, and I'll take out the loans and not have the support to do it, if I hadn't done that, then the next things that came about from just going to this specific place and making this decision, and being open to what came up, I think has been a really big lesson for me and got me here, despite the construction of time and what like expectations I guess I had or were expected of me initially. But I think I'm really glad that I trusted my gut, and then the people around me that were inspiring. Yeah.
I think the universe puts opportunities in our path that really determine and can be, a complete pivot. So, I know that is a great story. I admire the connection you made. And then that was a conscious decision to go back to school and start a completely different career path. Thanks for sharing, Shivani. Leo, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't, when you first asked this question, I was like, oh yeah, I can't think of anything. But then Shivani actually inspired me because it was a little bit similar. So I was at the city of Dunedin that I mentioned earlier in the government. And I finished my bachelor's right out of high school. I went in college, finished my bachelor's, and I had family members and friends going, well, aren't you going to continue? Like, don't you want to get your master's? Why aren't you, keep going? And I kept telling them, I don't want to be in school just to be in school. Like, I'll go back and get my master's if I feel a calling. And so I was midway during my time at this city when sustainability became a thing, right, in 2009. And so I was like, wait, that's a thing. That's what I wanted to do all my life. And that was my calling. And so I did go back and get my master's, and I finished in 2011. And I wasn't thinking that as a milestone because it wasn't until very recently that I got to use it full force. But having that experience and having the education and everything else, I was actually kind of, I did a lot of sustainability things at the city. It just wasn't my main focus. So it really kind of built up my experience, and then having the education, that's what opened the door for me to become the, global sustainability director that I am now.
And it takes small steps over time. So I love your story, Lael, because it's step by step, and it can take 100 small steps, but making that progress was a dedication. And that's very inspirational when you look at the trajectory and the commitment you made and that you stayed. That's the intention set we have around setting that goal and continuing to move toward it. So beautiful. All right. So let's proceed, because we're going to get into our skill building. Let's talk about creating professional visibility with our elevator pitch. So what we invite you to think about right now is the definition of an elevator pitch. It's a brief, persuasive self-marketing speech that you use to spark interest in you. It's 60 seconds or less with about 75 words, which is the length of an elevator ride. That's how it got its name. So when you think about getting into an elevator with an executive or a very important person, and they say to you, tell me about yourself. Well, you've got the elevator ride to give them 75 words that are interesting, memorable, and succinct. And it's an icebreaker to open a conversation at a networking event. Maybe you're at a job interview. Maybe you're introduced to a new coworker. Maybe it's, at some type of a business function, professional association. So 4 elements of a great elevator pitch. Start by introducing yourself, provide a professional summary of what you do, explain what you want or the value that you offer, and finish with a call to action. So that's on the left of 4 easy elements. And I find many women at events don't know how to introduce themselves. So this is critical for you. There's 10 tips in the checklist on the right. You want to figure out who you are, know your strongest skills and experience, explain how you're an asset to the company, quantify business results if you can. It's very powerful when you can say what you've done and the metrics or results you produced. Tell your story, be clear, be confident, take your time, make it conversational, avoid jargon, because technical words typically you might embarrass someone if they don't know them, and express your confidence. So how to write your elevator pitch. Here's my elevator pitch. We're going to set you off into pairs for a practice very shortly. So Joey, get that template reposted for them. Here's my elevator pitch, 75 words. My name is Pam Sammarco. I'm delighted to meet you. My consulting firm is Green Training Associates, a full-service talent development firm. We develop people's capabilities to solve the world's challenges and build sustainable organizations. As a trusted advisor to our clients, we accelerate your business growth and performance with training, leadership development, onboarding, coaching, mentoring, and career solutions. We excel working with companies in sustainability, environmental science, life science, and technology. Would you like to meet to discuss your talent development priorities to drive business impact? So therein lies 4 elements, 75 words, about 60 seconds. So who's up for a practice? Here are the instructions. We're going to put you off in pairs. I'd say we could do about 10 minutes, Joey, in terms of timing. I'm looking at our schedule. Want to make sure we keep on track. You're going to develop a brief and powerful professional brand statement. 10 minutes. Let's try 10 minutes. Read the guidance on the handout, just like I shared. All that detail is in the handout. And then come back and we'll invite you to have one or two people share their elevator pitches. We're welcoming folks back. I would love to take one or two people who want to share their elevator pitch, and also certainly welcome Lisa Ann Pinkerton. She's our CEO of Women in Cleantech and Sustainability. She had a few minutes to jump in and say hello, and we're delighted. It's an honor to have her spend some time with us, and we're glad to get to know elevator pitches. Who would like to take our first shot? It's okay. Let's see who's going to take this intelligent risk. It doesn't have to be perfect.
I feel like I've been talking so much, but if I need to be the one to break the ice, I will do it.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're brave.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's new for me. I'm usually not the talker on a webinar. So, okay. Hi, my name is Lael Giebel. It's nice to meet you. I'm the Director of Global Sustainability at KnowBe4, and I created our sustainability program from the ground up, including making clean energy targets, measuring our carbon emissions, creating a waste diversion program, and creating robust employee engagement and training initiatives. I would love to see how I could create something similar for your company. Can we chat about this next week?
Fantastic. That's all it takes. Bam. You nailed it. Cool. Excellent. Thanks for leading us off. One more who'd like to share. Oh, the pressure's on. The silence is deafening.
I'll do my elevator pitch
I'll hear.
while everybody else waits for theirs.
Yep, we'll take it.
I usually say some version of this. Because usually people are asking me like, what's Technica, whatever. And I'll say, well, I founded Technica after I spent over a decade as an environmental science reporter at NPR and PBS. And I was more in love with the companies that I was covering than doing the news every day. And I recognized that companies need a lot of support, not just from one article or broadcast piece from NPR, but they need a lot of those, and I can help them with that.
Beautiful. Really easy, very conversational, and creates credibility. So beautiful. Nice job.
And it drops a lot of open threads. NPR, really? What? How do you do that? Right? Yeah.
Uh-huh. Cool. Lisa Ann, you're a pro. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks. I have a lot of practice.
Uh-huh. Love that.
It's the I want to hear more effect.
It is. We're going, wait a minute. Yeah, those threads. Cool. All right. So no pressure. You know what? This is the first entree into thinking about how to present yourself. And it takes time to get comfortable speaking about yourself and your accomplishments. So I encourage you, complete that template, fill it out, practice it out loud, practice it with a partner, practice it over, like we want you all to link in with each other and have virtual coffees and continue this conversation. So take the time to fill out your template and rehearse it out loud. I encourage you, it has to be out loud because you want it to sound right, because what you write and what you say are two different things. So that said, let's dive into our next section. All righty. So where and when to use your elevator pitch? Guess what? I'm going to ask you this. You can think about this for yourself, but where is your golf course? Men play golf to build relationships, make business deals, and network. Women may play golf too, but if not, we need to find the place with women's initiatives inside your company and outside your organization. Your goal which is at the bottom here, is to foster a connection with an inner circle of trusted advisors who are sounding boards to socialize new ideas for business challenges, your career aspiration plan, which we're going to talk about shortly, and create visibility for the results that you produced. So when you produce results, you want to be able to share that so that it gets visibility. And, you know, LinkedIn and virtual coffees and the ability to use WCS as your primary place to build your inner circle and gain support toward your professional objectives and your career goals, build your skills, connect in with the resources available at WCS that help serve building this golf course. So this is essential. So let me give you a couple more sound bites on this. Where and when will you use your elevator pitch inside your company? Direct leaders, mentors, sponsors, project leaders, stakeholders, executive conversations, company affinity groups for women. You want your voice to be heard. There's lots of companies and even more need to start women in leadership initiatives where there is a program. I can name 5 top companies that are doing it. More needs to be done at every organization, no matter what size, because this is the ability to elevate women with purpose in terms of compensation, which we talked about, in terms of your ability to climb the ladder if you wish that, or build your technical expertise, because not everyone is carved out to be a people leader or an executive, but you may want to gain momentum in the expertise that you bring to that business and continue to credential yourself and be seen as an essential value add, highly skilled and qualified professional. Not everyone needs to be a team leader. If it's not your thing to manage people doing the work and you like to do the work itself, that's perfectly fine as a career path. So, you can add ideas to this initial set of bullets for networking inside your company, but this is this is how you leverage that elevator pitch inside. Now, outside your company, where and when will you use your elevator pitch? Professional and trade associations, business women networks, alumni associations, networking events, professional conferences. I'm sure you can add ideas to this as well. So your elevator pitch is helpful outside your company. You may have a couple of different versions of your elevator pitch as well. Depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it in a job interview, it's going to sound different than you use it at a networking event, or if you're working inside your company to elevate your visibility, then you're going to have a different elevator pitch than you would in other ways. So think about the purpose of the elevator pitch. It's a template for a reason, because you can have different versions depending on what your objectives are and who you're speaking to, because that's critical. If the target audience is an internal leader, you're going to say it differently than you would speak at a job interview. So let's talk about mentors, career coaches, and sponsors. Why do you need them? Well, on the left, we've got mentor and career coach. So a mentor is going to take a more holistic approach with you, offering guidance over a time period. A career coach will create and manage a specific development plan with a defined set of goals. And both career coaches and mentors will help you help yourself, promoting personal and professional growth. A sponsor, on the other hand, will promote you directly, using influencing power and networking to connect you with good jobs and special assignments, and possibly as a protege that would elevate you in the organization to a management role or other levels that you may want to proceed in. You want someone who's going to advocate for you, open doors, and remove obstacles, and elevate your visibility for new opportunities. In fact, choosing that sponsor carefully, because you don't want to end up being like the tall poppy syndrome women, where men then are most likely to sabotage women and not support and demean your progress and make it harder for you, not easier for you. A sponsor makes it easier for you because they're committed to you. Julie, go ahead. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I have a question on how do we find mentors? Because I feel like we really need a trust relationship with a mentor. And So I read a book. So it's just a book among others, but it's the famous book like Lean In from Sheryl Sandberg. And at some point she says that the best mentors are the one that you find, and it so happens that they mentor you, and it's not the one you look for. So I'm just a bit confused, like how do we find mentors?
You know, the mentor can be inside your company or outside your company. It can be someone in your life that you've connected with, and they're they're committed to your growth. And it depends, I think, primarily on what you want to accomplish and who you're engaging. So sometimes a mentor is someone, so I'll give you an example. When I started my business 15 years ago, I was in corporate, so I'm very good at developing talent and training people, but learning to run a business and be a business owner was a next level of something that I'd never experienced before. So I asked two people who were successful training consulting firm owners. So two people I knew that were running a training consulting practice for a long time. I asked them, would they be my mentors formally? I met with them quarterly for lunch. I paid for lunch. I brought my preparation of what I needed from them. Maybe it was, how do I negotiate the terms of a contract? What does a good proposal include? How do I navigate this difficult challenge with, a company that I was in the middle of a business relationship with, and things went off the rails. I knew what advice I needed, and those people were already successful as they carved a path for their own training consulting firms. And I invited them because they had the experience that I wanted to learn from. So I think some of it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. A career coach, you can engage, we have a mentorship program with WCS. It's only for 3 months, and we need to look at how that mentorship program runs. But we have a mentorship program where you can get assigned a mentor. And that matching process happens like in the fall, and then we launch January of next year for our next cohort. So there are mentors available from WCS. It's not a year-round thing. We do have career coaches, and depends on what you want to accomplish with your professional development and how you set a development plan and goals. And usually that's a paid resource. Mentors, typically are not paid. They're just people who are willing to ladder up for someone that needs help. And the sponsor is usually someone that is in a position of power and influence that can bring you along, and that has a purpose of taking you into what would be your high potential, and how they carry you into meetings and into opportunities. And that's where some of the golf course conversation happens, is those deals are made on the golf course. So this is our golf course, the women on this call, and WCS is an organization, one resource. But your selection of a mentor is going to be totally dependent on who has something that you aspire to. So hope that helps, Julie. Other questions? All right. So let's move into our second skill building topic of our time together. So I'm going to do a level set of what aspirational career conversations and planning sounds like. And then we're going to set you off into our second breakout, where you're going to work in pairs again, and you're going to use the template in the second handout, which I'll have Joey put in the chat again. And these aspirational career conversations, the beginning of what you dream of and the plan to get there. So don't worry about this visual is in the handout, so don't worry about trying to capture it. Let me just walk you through it. So an aspirational career conversation is an intentional, dynamic plan to action that advances your long-term career goals within the same organization, or supporting your transition between organizations. So if you want to leave your business, or if you want to stay and move within your current organization. So your plan may seek opportunities to help you learn, practice, and demonstrate leadership skills, projects, teams, managing staff, managing interns. It depends on the path that you want to take, but your career conversation is purely what you want to what you want to see happen, and then how you operationalize it with the plan using the template. So when I say the word career, I'm talking about building your life's body of work. It's not the instance, it's not the job, it's the overall life goal and your body of work. So I started my career plan when I was a sophomore in college. I knew I wanted to train people and work on organization effectiveness and culture and coach people. So I started my career plan almost 40 years ago. And I can say my life's body of work is all about the fabric or the patchwork of every experience that I've had in a cumulative way. So you'll be thinking more broadly about how you want to layer your job experiences over time. Your first decision is whether your career conversations will happen within your organization or outside of the organization. Now, whenever and wherever you're networking inside and outside your company, you want to be prepared with the content of your conversation. And your next step is to plan your strategy, know what you want, be prepared with an action plan. And that's an internal process. So it's that conversation within yourself about what you dream of. And Lael's story was beautiful. She started out with her master's degree and deciding she wanted to work in sustainability. And now she's realized that almost 15 years later, from getting her degree to having a global sustainability director responsibility. So it's small steps. But if you see your next step in your future with your current organization, your manager's role to inspire, guide, and support your career development is essential. So career conversations between managers and employees are the single most important factor in building, motivating, and developing talent and retaining talent for this highly skilled professional workforce. We have a talent shortage. There's a war for talent. They want to keep you. Career paths are essential for organizations to make sure that their employees know they're valued and that they have a path for whatever you dream of, and that organization can help get you there. So as important as ever, these career conversations, however, are becoming more difficult. Why? Because we're living in a tumultuous economic times. There's job loss out there, corporate restructuring, financial worries. Everything is taking a toll on career plans. So we need to take a deep breath. We need to focus on where we are, where we want to be. And it may be a more challenging path than it has been in the past, but you still want to persevere. Strategies and tactics where sometimes the changes in an organization create opportunity, which is a wonderful thing, because what might emerge is a new division, might be a merger acquisition. It may be that the opportunity comes about for you to change roles or to continue to develop yourself. The workforce is more diverse, multicultural, multi-generational, global, very technically savvy. So that means for you, when you're doing your aspirational career conversation, being flexible, adaptable, and responsive and positive, and capitalizing on those opportunities that present themselves during organizational change and growth are essential. And so you want to keep your finger on the pulse of the organization and what's happening. I'll give you a brief example. I had a conversation just yesterday. I'm doing green and sustainability career coaching for graduate students. And this young man is at an internship and he has an offer letter for a full-time job with a global brand. And he said to me, they've just told us that they're freezing the merit increases. They've also told us that they are no longer contributing a match to the 401k contribution, and they've laid some people off. He said to me, what do I do? Because his job, he's an intern, and then he's got like 2 or 3 months from now, the offer letter is a start date after he graduates, and they've rescinded some of the interns' offer letters, and he's worried. So I gave him the advice. I said, no job is secure today. So keeping your network strong, keeping 6 to 8 months of savings if you can in the bank so that you can survive if you lose your job. And I said, there's nothing hurts with you going on to apply for other jobs. Something might come in as a better offer, but you have this job for now with the signed offer letter. And if that goes away, you need to be prepared. So again, as we started this conversation, your network is your net worth, right? And so being prepared, the things that you can control, and then being prepared for the agility that it requires, which is building your network of relationships, continuing your commitment to WCS, which is a safe community, it's a responsive community, it's supportive of women. You know, we're here to be that place to build a sense of community for you. So the type of conversations, when we look at this chart from left to right, we're looking at the conversation column. It could be when you talk with your manager that you're talking about performance goals, next level job or mobility, stretch goals, rotational assignments, project lead assignments. These are the ways to create visibility for you to step up and also perform and drive results. With whom? You could speak with any of the people. HR is an important, an HR leader is important, career coach, mentor, sponsor, direct leader. So depending on what your conversation is depends on with whom you're having it and how you can leverage those conversations that will help you achieve your goal. So your readiness plan on the right column is to dream big, identify your current state, where are you, what your future state is, what do you dream of, list your current capabilities, possibly identify new capabilities because you may need to get more tools in your toolbox, get credentials, certificates, build your skills, and more skills. So you could actually, if you dream of a job title, do an internet search on Indeed or LinkedIn for that job title. What are the qualifications and hiring requirements that an employer is seeking? And you would then be able to fill in the gaps for where you are and what you need to do, and how you need to continue to build your readiness to take that next step within or outside to a new organization. So it depends on whether your current organization will support that, or if you need to move to a new job. And so we're going into our next practice, skill building. Guess what? You're going to develop a draft of your aspirational conversation plan. We're going to set you up into pairs again, and you're going to use the handout, Career Aspiration Conversation Guide. Take about 10 minutes. This is just getting you started. Draft your responses because you can type into the template, and then we'll come back and reconvene and hear your thoughts. So allow me to stop sharing. Any questions before we break for your 10 minutes of skill building practice? All righty then, Joey, hit the breakout button. We'll see you in 10. So welcome back. How are your plans coming? We're in the home stretch. We're on time for the next section of our program. So I want to hear some readouts. What were your conversations like? Who'd like to open the microphone and go first?
I can start. So I think that in my group first we discussed, like, when we talk about goals, or those like overarching goal, career goal, or just like next step or 5-year plan. And I think it really depends on where everyone is at and what do they really want to focus on next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, and I feel within my 3-person group, we all had different perspective or different like immediate ambitions. So I think it makes our career aspiration guide different.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is a very personalized opportunity for you to explore, but it gives you the framework and it starts the wheels turning. And you know what? There are definitely unexpected things that happen that we navigate around. And, you know, we work toward those goals where we still have that intention. And then sometimes life surprises us with opportunities. You know, like Lisa, you know, like we heard about the photographer opportunity, right? That was game changing for your career. Like, there is the moments where things happen. And what we need to do is be adaptable with that plan. But if we set the intention, at least we have a direction. If you have ever done a vision board, I do a vision board every January, which is like an aspiration plan that's a visual. And I set forth goals. Like, some people don't like New Year's resolutions because they never stick to them. But my aspiration plan, it literally is handwritten, and I categorize my goals across 5 or 6 areas where I set financial goals, I set relationship goals, I set business goals, I set health goals, and I kind of lay out what I like, what I'm dreaming of. So when I feel lost or at some moment where I don't know where to go or what to do next, that you know is my compass. It's my North Star, and it's the place that I go when, you know, I'm feeling like nothing's working and what do I need to change? So we all have those moments, but if you have a plan, it gives you something to work toward. And the sense of purpose, particularly in the sustainability and green sector, is a guiding compass in and of itself. And that gives us the passion and the dedication and the commitment that allows us to want to protect the earth and dedicate ourselves to something that's greater, the greater good. So thank you for Julie for that. Who else would like to share any nuggets that came up? This is just the beginning. We didn't expect anything fully formed at this point, just starting to dream. Who'd like to share an idea or two from their discussion? We've got some quiet people. Come on. I'm not going to volunteer someone, but I would like one other comment before we move forward to finish the rest of our program.
I can share, Pam. So Stephanie and I had a lovely discussion about where we're both sort of individually thinking about heading next in terms of career aspirations, and what it would take to get there, kind of how those opportunities would differ from our current scope of responsibilities and who we would want to connect with to make that happen. So it's a great conversation.
Excellent. Thanks for that summary. And it's just the beginning. So feel free to use, virtual coffee and linking each other in to continue your discussion. So with that said, let me pop up our slide deck again as we head into the next segment of our program. So when I coach and train people, I'm often asked, how can I help them build their confidence? In fact, someone said that at the beginning, I want to be more confident. Julie, I think it was you, right?
Yeah.
Confidence is an outcome of developing leadership capability. So I invite you to be a continuous learner. Your strengths and your confidence will come with being prepared by developing your capabilities that allow you to be successfully responding to new situations. And experience is a great teacher. So we want your confidence level to be invincible. And it takes time to build that up. But the more that you create visibility, the more you rehearse your elevator pitch, the more that you prepare your career aspiration plan, and the more you take skill building programs like this one, it's the outcome of doing all of those things. It's the summation of it. And you take those antidotes for the imposter syndrome. Those are all good tips for you to think about building confidence. So let's go into the 6 job success factors as our last module for today. Here's another let's talk. What are some of the on-the-job behaviors that you can use to be more successful at work?
Pam, this isn't directly related to this question, but it just came up and I wanted to mention it. We offered our women's ERG a session on negotiating last week. And one thing that came up that I think is so important, just not to forget, is to be willing to ask for what you want. And I don't know if it's more as a female, but I think sometimes there's such hesitation to just kind of put on the table what you're looking for. And so that just came to mind for me as we were wrapping up that last conversation and as you asked this question.
Exactly. So one of the 3 simple rules of life, if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. So I love the women resource group idea, and negotiation is a hard skill. We want to look at the business skills because many women don't elevate in an organization because they're lacking business acumen, financial management, negotiation skills. So that rotational assignment and getting into a leadership development program or sponsoring one for your company, which I've done over and over again, leader readiness journeys are essential for women to get those hard business skills, because that stops them. If you have an MBA or an executive, short-term MBA or access to those type of hard skills, Megan, I admire that your company is doing that type of a program, which is why I encourage you to think about women in leadership initiatives and how the ideas can be brought to bear where they're equipped and therefore there's no excuse for them not to be moved into a management rotation program or management readiness. So what are some of the other behaviors? Thanks for sharing that, Megan. You've just simply got to be able to ask, and women hesitate. Go ahead. What else? What else did you, what other ideas do you have? All right. Type them in the chat, let Shivani know, and we'll move forward because I have 6 key success factors to position yourself with credibility, capability, and confidence. So we're going to take a slide on each of these. First impressions count, building relationships in your network, positive language equals charisma, values at work equal credibility, trust equals power and influence, and courageous leadership. So let's look at each of these. First impressions are lasting impressions. People form an impression about you in the first 2 minutes of your conversation. In fact, people make 11 assumptions in the first 7 seconds of meeting you. Then they spend the rest of the time verifying that their first impression is correct. So you've got 1 shot, make it count, which is why your elevator pitch is essential, right? Relationship building in your network is critical. Socializing in business situations using small talk made simple, which is the acronym FORD. So this is the second of our 6 success factors, critical to create and maintain your network. Sometimes socializing is awkward, so think about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams when we're called into work situations. Use this simple guide. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams are the 4 topics you can make easy conversation about. Positive language equals charisma and a can-do attitude. Positive language, which is on the left, you say what can be done, suggest alternatives and choices available, is helpful and encouraging, not bureaucratic, stresses positive actions and positive outcomes. Negative language, however, says what cannot be done, has a subtle tone of blame, uses words like can't, won't, unable, and stresses negative action or negative consequences. So people are drawn to and want to follow and be around charismatic leaders who have an optimistic and progressive attitude. So positive language is powerful and it's energizing. And using those positive words is the can-do attitude, because negative language shuts people down and creates obstacles. So walk the talk with positive talk, as all great leaders do. Now, values at work equal credibility. Our 4th success factor is building credibility through demonstrating your values in your daily behaviors. So you show up with your best self every day and you walk the talk about values at work because your personal and business values are fundamentals of bringing your best self to work every day. So this is what makes us who we are when we show up. And that credibility means that people then respect you. They see you as accomplished. They see you as a person with great integrity and great business ethics. And therein lies building trust, which equals how you gain power and influence. So trust takes years to earn, seconds to break. People don't trust words, they trust actions. So this is our 5th success factor, which is trust. And it's the consistency between your words and actions that build trust over time. Transparency is also critical to building trust. So following through, do what you say you're going to do when you commit to doing it. Means that you're showing up and you're communicating openly and honestly. You're reliable. You provide all necessary information in a circumstance. You tell the truth, even when it's not what the other person wants to hear, which is the authentic conversations that we all have had to have. And we admit mistakes. We're going to talk about mistakes shortly. But trust is earned by demonstrating these traits consistently over time. And a trustworthy individual is someone that demonstrates integrity, honesty, reliability, authenticity. And that gains you power and influence in situations because you are believable, you've shown up for them, and you've demonstrated that you're a person that is worth hearing and listening to and following. So the 6th and final success factor is stepping into the courage zone. So what happens when you're really afraid? Well, you feel the fear and do it anyway. So what do you do about this fear? Well, it's about converting those feelings of fear into feelings of excitement. So wouldn't that make pursuing a courageous act easier? Well, sure. So courage is not being fearless. In fact, courage is fearful. So it's precisely when your knees are shaking, when your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, that you're being courageous. As long as you're moving through that fear, the act of being courageous is uncomfortable. So being courageous isn't easy, but if it were, then more people would be courageous more often. But you feel the fear and do it anyway, and that's what courage is. So my moment of courage in life was that I always wanted to start a consulting practice. It took me 24 years in 4 global corporations to arrive at this. I built a strong professional network over time. This was what story I told you earlier. I asked 2 business mentors to guide me. I formed an advisory board of experts. I attended women in entrepreneur programs. I made mistakes. I learned a lot, but I'm 14 years in, now my 15th year of extraordinary successful engagements that don't feel like work anymore. And my crowning achievement was a 2020 honoree by NJ Biz as one of the best 50 women in New Jersey business. So that was my moment of courage. Feel the fear and do it anyway, because I wanted to. So if courage is the first virtue in life, then it's the first virtue in organizations too. So it takes courage to try something new, first attempt, pioneering, making bold decisions, becoming innovative, being change makers, which is what we are in sustainability and green sector. So leadership takes courage. And if you get courage right, a lot of other things fall into place. So you can think about other business concepts that courage connects to, such as leadership, innovation, sales, sustainability, ESG. Now, we all have had mistakes. When things don't fall into place, here are some helpful guidelines for how to recover from mistakes. We'll take this chart on the left from the top to the bottom. First step, pull yourself together. Apologize immediately and authentically. Own the consequences. No blame, no excuses. You messed up and you own it. Clean up any mess. Whatever you can do to repair the damage, take those actions quickly. Don't dwell on it, because failure is success if we learn from it. So we learn from it. Move forward. Don't repeat the mistake, because then it's a sign, then it's a pattern of behavior that is a warning sign of performance issues. So we don't want to repeat those mistakes, because then you're not paying attention and you don't learn from it. So mistakes are an essential part of growth when it comes to your career path. It's part of being human. We learn to be accountable, we forgive ourselves, and we make improvements for the future that will keep you moving forward in a positive direction. So I'll leave you with this thought about courage. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is a quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. And that's Marianne Rodmacher's quote. So let me open it up for questions and discussions. And then I have a couple of closing remarks, and I'll turn it back over to Joey shortly for her to deliver the WCS closing. Let me open it up. What else is on your minds? Any open questions, Shivani, from the chat? Or would people like to open their mic to make any comments before we head into the close?
Yeah, there's nothing coming in from the chat or that we missed. So if we want to keep people shout out, you can go ahead, raise your hand.
Thank you.
I think that one thing, and this came up when we were talking about elevator pitches, is that I think it's important for, in those kind of situations, to give your why as well. Because I feel like a lot of times, like, it's like, well, this is all the what, right? But the why is what ties people more emotionally to things. And so being able to have that, especially if you're maybe not as like directly connected to someone, that's something that they can hold on to. So
that's a great observation, Erin. I like it. We definitely should add that to our elevator pitch template. The why is critical. Love it. Okay, thank you so much for your comment. We have another raised hand.
I think that's me. Yeah, I have a question regarding like the attitude to adopt, and especially on the apologies and the apologies department. I mean, I don't want to be a rude person, of course, but sometimes when I compare my actions to like my male coworkers, like they do things or where they don't ask permission, or like they will just apologize later if needed, and it works, you know, it's accepted. And I feel like I usually ask before I do something or whatever, but I feel like women in the workplace often apologize too much. And so how to find a balance between not being a rude person, but not like apologizing way too much compared to our masculine colleagues.
You know, it's a great point, because it's like the old saying goes, like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. And I think the root skill is intelligent risk taking. So men take an intelligent risk and they'll step forward and do something and then apologize for not asking permission. What the prior section was about a mistake, that's truly when something goes off the rails and you've created a problem, or, you know, there was a mistake at work. Maybe the budget was incorrect, maybe a sales conversation went off the rails and you've got a customer complaint to handle, or, you know, the results of your project didn't turn out the way it needed to because you made some error in not including some key stakeholders. You know, there's like, when there's business impact that has caused a mess, either personally or professionally, that's when this process that I shared is important. What you're describing is playing the game and intelligent risk taking, which is why women don't need to ask permission or apologize. We do say I'm sorry too often, which is a whole nother topic of, or, you know, apologizing for, you know, things that you shouldn't apologize for. So truly what we talked about were clear mistakes and you've messed up badly. But men, they don't ask permission. They just go ahead because they're confident and they would say, I'm sorry, but it's really just like, I'm going to go ahead and do this cool thing and I'm going to be bold and be wildly successful. And the permission is really, you know, sort of tongue in cheek, because it's not an apology that they really mean later on, that they didn't ask permission. It was, you know, it's intentional. It's playing the game. It's political. It's being competitive, and it's intelligently taking risks. Women are not innately wired for that typically. So that's a whole nother level of consideration when we're afraid to step forward or we're a little timid in our statements. But we walk a fine line, Julie, which is the problem that you're referring to, with then the tall poppy syndrome and ambitious women that get cut down when you do step out with confidence. You know, so therein lies, like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I think that you're, you know, find your way through. You might consult a mentor or a confidant at that point if it's a big risk and you're trying to assess it and the impact of that risk and what direction it could take and what the potential outcomes are, where you kind of, you know, figure out what the reactions or the path are going to be. If it's a big thing, you might consult a confidant or a mentor or a career coach at that point, or even your manager if you have the confidant and, you know, the confidential relationship with them. So it's going to vary, but thanks for bringing that up, because that's the fine line where we're on a tightrope. And I'm glad that you mentioned it, but we need to take intelligent risks and stop apologizing unless you really mess up bad, and then you have to own it. Cool. What other questions and discussion items? What's on your mind? How was today's session for you? Feel free to share. All right. Well, we've got 3 minutes. So allow me to remind you to review your action plan of learning goals, intentional change, actions, habits, and success. What are your key learnings from today? How did you do with finding the ideas that motivate you to change? And did you collect ideas for at least 3 actions to take with you? I'm gathering from the active dialogue that people really felt positive and that you are able to make those changes, and some light bulb moments went off for you. So I'll offer this quote: if you want 1 year of prosperity, grow grain. If you want 10 years of prosperity, grow trees. If you want 100 years of prosperity, grow people, especially women. And that was my addition from this ancient proverb. So I invite you to keep in touch. Here's my contact information. Send me a LinkedIn. Let's make sure that we help continue to develop your skills. You'll certainly see a lot from me in career development for WCS. And if I can be of any support to you through WCS or professionally, I'm open to making sure that we help you be wildly successful and that we take these skills to the next level to elevate you and to have you feel inspired, and that you lead with confidence, and that you're feeling empowered, and that you're ready to go out there with new tools in your toolbox. So I'll again thank WCS for hosting this. If we can do anything for career development, I'm always open to a coffee chat with our members. Let's connect so I can learn about what career development at WCS looks like for you and how we can continue to serve you. So allow me to thank you again for your time and your participation. Turn it back to Joey for a couple of closing slide reminders.
Thank you so much, Pam, and thank you everyone for attending. Pam, your knowledge is just incredible. Thank you so much for guiding us through this workshop. And I also want to give a big thank you to our volunteers. We couldn't have these events without our volunteers. We're also recruiting a budget brand manager. This person will work closely with the treasurer and finance director approximately 5 hours per week, monitoring the WCS budget versus our actuals and preparing reports. So please scan that QR code and visit our volunteer page if you're interested in this. And if you're interested and enjoyed this event, we have more. Please mark your calendars for these upcoming events. And WCS has merch. Please scan the QR code here to check out our merch store and use the code WCS15OFF for 15% off your purchase. And as a reminder, if you're not following us on social media, here are our handles. And that is all I have. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for spending your day with us. We certainly appreciate your time. And thank you again, Pam, so much for this workshop. You're amazing.